I'm going to try to increase it. I've got a bit of a loop happening. Okay. I'm going to mute myself too because my dogs are screaming at me.
Kelly, you have the audio turned on, right? To share audio?
Other people decide their stories.
Can you hear the sound?
I can hear it.
Not really.
If you could turn it up a little.
It needs to be turned up.
It's on mute or very low volume.
Yeah, it's very hard to hear now, Carrie.
Carrie, can you turn it up to the highest volume available?
I think he might be trying to.
Okay, I can't hear everyone when this is going on. What is the issue? Sorry.
Can't hear
No
anything.
volume.
There's no volume. Okay, so
Well, there is volume, but it's very, very low.
Oh,
What
it's
if-
very low. You need to
Here's
put
the
it up
thing.
to the highest one available.
okay, so here's what I'll do. Would it make sense to put this in the chat? And then everybody can click on the link and they could watch it themselves.
I could play it off my computer. That way.
See if that'll work better.
Yeah, Heath can play it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll
Hey,
just play it
guys.
off my computer.
We'll
Just give
try
me 2
that.
seconds.
Older computer, so that might be the problem.
What are we talking about today, guys?
There's a video that Self-Advocacy, we're promoting our group.
Sorry, what was the question? And who, I didn't see where it came from.
I said, what are we talking about?
So Kaveen from Calgary has joined us. I'm not quite sure how she got here. She must have seen a link somewhere along in our
They
community.
said to me on,
But hi, Kaveen. The
Yeah.
Self-Advocacy Federation has been invited to speak with some people from Gateway Association. So if you could just hold off and then we'll be right with you. Okay? Thanks.
Kelly, just to let you know, this event is public and it's on Eventbrite, so that's probably how Kaveen found out about it.
Yeah, probably.
We create these scripts for safety. The idea behind this and the work I do, but specifically this membership, is that we all have a story to tell, but sometimes stories are placed upon us. For many with disabilities, other people decide our stories for us. Or we get stuck in the same stories about ourselves. So other people tell stories for us because of our bodies or our minds or our lives. Or we tell ourselves the same stories. We create these scripts for safety and for clarity and sometimes to receive care. So we exist in a system that we keep telling the same story because we have to get money, to get places to live, to get all kinds of things. So these are the stories we tell about ourselves, or people tell about us. For someone who experiences disability, storytelling in this multidisciplinary way, which is the art world's fancy way to say using different materials. So sometimes we used oil pastels, sometimes we used our bodies, sometimes we used our voices. With lots of different kinds of art, we allow different kinds of stories to be told. And it asks ways to share, different kinds of views to be formed. It allows a fun way to share, and that sharing creates and builds community. You were allowed to create stories in different ways than you're used to. Some people use their voices, other people use their bodies. You were allowed to paint and draw. to create fun, to create new stories and new possibilities for yourselves and for your community. So from this sharing, we learn about and from each other. One day we shared about mapping, and we figured out where we all lived and placed it on Jesse's really great map of the city. And then we also talked about places we can't go. So if you don't drive, you don't go to South Edmonton Common ever. Why would you go there? So your city changes depending on how you actually get yourself around. And what places are unsafe and what places do we love? There was a lot of going to swimming pools and libraries and places that are free to go to that we can all build community. This came up as a huge resource as well, to have Self-Advocacy's meeting office on Jasper Ave, where we can all congregate through public transit, through DATS, through taxi, to get together in a room where we all felt safe that we could share. And then we also explored the imaginary. So what are your best features? If you were a superhero, what kind of superhero would you be? What kind of food do you like to eat? All these small things that become really big in the stories that we share. When we have labels like disability, no one asks what's our favorite food or how do you move around the city. Everything becomes politicized. So we really got to know on some basic details such as our day in a life. I found out that so many of you have cats or drink coffee or eat cereal in the morning. And these small humanizing things that get us beyond our disability labels. The other thing it also allows us to do as a group of people is decide what we share and what we don't share. So getting beyond this label that's placed upon us, we don't have to say what our medical diagnoses are to have a story. Instead, you can tell the story of your superhero, or you can tell the story of what you ate for breakfast, or how you got to the meeting. And the ability to have that story and share that imagination moves you beyond just being a label. It moves you into the story that you want to tell the world. And this can be used as a self-advocacy tool. So you become so much more than what people have told you you are, what I tell you you are. You get to decide and be the author of your own story. And I got the pleasure of spending so many months with you figuring that out. And some of you liked the exercises I threw at you in an experimental way, and some of you didn't. And that's okay too. That's part of deciding how you want to express yourself. With that, I'm going to show you the film, because that matters how your story is read to the world.
You have been with the SAF pretty much since before it was SAF, right?
Yes, since 2006.
I need to know from Quinn just how he feels about all these photos.
God, really happy on how far we've come over the 13 years.
There we go.
Yes, that's from the rally in Cowtown.
So do these memories make you happy?
Yes. Every day you had to go out to work again. You didn't have any choices.
Did you get paid? No.
Got a job in Rocky, and that's where I said I've had it. I'm out of here. Hitchhiked to St. Albert, living with my brother Dave. Hitchhiking back and forth to work before they got the buses there. At that point in time, I had a job with my brother-in-law. He had his own printing outfit, and he sold his print shop. And unfortunately, I was out of a job.
Were you in the news?
Yeah. I drive on my bike and had a piece of wood across the handlebars, and there was a stop sign or a sign on the road, piece of board, hit the sign, and I went ass over tea kettle.
And that made it into the news?
Yeah, I made it on the front page of the Gazette.
Oh, wow.
And then I worked for St. Albert Gazette for the next number of years, delivered gazettes door to door.
Tell me about how you started dancing.
I was a very little kid a long time ago. I think dance is very important. It makes me feel more confident. It's nice to enjoy that and have some fun.
How does it help you speak?
I think body language, it does make sense. Dancing makes you doing something for yourself.
How I managed to get married under guardianship? Well, my guardian was my mom, And she was all well for me marrying my husband, Danny. But then when we did the whole wedding process, turned into be a difficult situation. We could only invite people that could drive opposed to friends that have disability. My stepdad, he couldn't go because of his disability.
How long have you two been together now?
2.5 years. We're very open and honest with each other. We never go to bed angry. We never lie to each other. We're pretty much like an open book. And Danny's is the all-time funny character. You never know what he's gonna do. So I love being married to him.
I know how exciting it's been for you, especially over the last little while, about you being able to move.
Yeah.
Where is it that you're going to be moving to?
St. Albert. There's a city hall in St. Albert. I would like to work there. And the house is nice. I'm going to be helping do chores there.
What type of chores are you excited about doing?
Sweeping, mopping, cleaning the house, dishes, do my laundry.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
We bring it all together because if we complement each other's strengths, I find. You talk way better than I do.
And it works out really well. He used to go, well, you date me for my car. I'm like, no, I date you for your feet.
Yeah. Because we both have disability. We know each other's situation, and that brings us even closer together.
Now I understand him better than his parents do.
But again, we both understand that one of us can provide
balance for the other.
Recently, I have gotten involved with a girl from England. We actually met on Twitter. One thing kind of led to another, and yeah, then she had applied for a 2-year visa to come to Canada. We did it very methodically in terms of making sure that, because both of us had been in prior relationships that were not the best, and so we didn't want that same disaster to happen. She's more accommodating and more accepting than anybody I've ever met. There are those people out there that say, I don't care that you have a disability. I love you for who you are, and that's all I care about.
It all starts.
I always say it was love at first tweet.
Right?
So,
Yes. So, Heath, can you start by telling us how you joined the Self-Advocacy Federation?
sorry.
Know your rights. A guide for self-advocacy.
Oh.
Heath, you're muted.
Yeah, I killed it. Sorry about that.
Thanks for sharing the video. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Just
still
wanted to
playing
know.
the video in the background, and I was like, right, I didn't stop it.
No worries.
So could you repeat your question?
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to know kind of how you started at the Self-Advocacy Federation.
I started at the Self-Advocacy Federation in 2010. That was having moved to Edmonton from Calgary. And in Calgary, I was part of the Disability Action Hall, which is the Calgary equivalent of what the Disability Action Hall does. And my starting with the community was mainly just because being a person with a disability, having my own experiences and struggles and whatnot, it's just a natural process of wanting to develop that within our community and really being able to advocate together towards getting ourselves to being able to get our concerns recognized in society. And that's going beyond just like the simple tasks or things that it can seem of what those needs are, but going into the complexities of it, of where social barriers become involved, and also like trying to really express yourself and be considered in an equitable way as how anybody should be respecting anybody else when you're talking to them. So that was a large part of my initially getting involved with self-advocacy. Actually, there is a story about my getting involved with self-advocacy in general first, which was with the Disability Action Hall, which was the fact that I had independently been trying to get towards certain things like self-advocacy. And this was back in 2007. I attended the International Day of the Disabled Person in December in Calgary, and it was being held at a hotel downtown. And when I first went, I ended up finding a lot of booths and a lot of info areas, which was great. And then all of a sudden I turn around and I found a large collection of different folks with various abilities coming into the room with giant choir gowns on. And they came and they stood like a choir would and started singing Christmas carols that were into the tune of their social and political struggles from day to day as Christmas carols, which I just found to be really like amazing. And then I connected through that with a professor I had at the time to actually do a practicum initially with the Self-Advocacy Federation. And then past that point, it enabled like a lot of ability for me to be shouldn't be seeing myself as anything different than anyone else in the community, and that together we can really push towards making sure that when things of our concerns and our barriers are addressed, it can be addressed as respectfully and equitably as possible, as opposed to seen as a stepping stone of a difficulty. So I hope that kind of answers your question. My initial starting with the Self-Advocacy Federation, I was helping them start up a Right to Love project back in 2010.
Thank you. What about Amy? Can you tell us kind of what led you to become a self-advocate?
Yeah, well, I mean, what led me to become it was kind of my family and their passion and their desire for a more inclusive world and social justice and all that. So growing up surrounded by that, I had no hope of doing anything else. No, I'm kidding. No, I originally got involved with the SAF, Self-Advocacy Federation, in 2015. And it was through a support agency that I was with that found out about it. And I from that, I started going to meetings, and I remember the first meeting I went to, we watched a film, and I remember thinking, oh, this isn't good. This is gonna be another like day program type thing, and I was quite concerned. However, I learned very quickly that the SAF does a lot of advocacy and a lot of teaching to different organizations and different different disability organizations that want to learn about self-advocacy, or to staff that want to learn how to better support their customers in the community. So yeah, that's kind of how I started my SAF adventure.
Thanks for sharing, Amy. And Carrie, I don't know if you're still there. But, I just kind of had the same question, like what led you to become an ally with self-advocacy? You're starting there.
Well, I've always had a interest in human rights and social justice. And when the position, it was funny because I have a family member who's got a disability, and I've also worked in the sector as a paid staff. And probably well over 30 years. And I had never heard about the Self-Advocacy Federation, and I found that really quite sad because the most important community is the disability community. And when I found out that the Federation existed, somebody told me about it and told me that there was a position available. I thought it would be a really great fit with both my personal experience and my personal value system, because we at the Federation really see disability activism as the same thing as any other civil rights movement or any other human rights movement. In fact, the disability community has so many parallels with the Indigenous community, and we really feel that without the lived experience of people, that a lot gets lost. And so we've changed over the last, I'd say 6 or 7 years. Sorry, my dogs are barking at the wind. We've changed over the last few years, and we've gotten more political. We try to be nonpartisan, but we really help advocate for things such as AISH and income supports and transportation and housing and barriers to belonging such as poverty and labeling. So we have probably about 20 active members, and then more members who come and go and come to events and whatnot. We've been around since 2006, and it is the only self-advocacy group in all of Alberta that is not connected to a service provider. It's a standalone group. So we're really proud of that, and we're really proud of the work that we do as a community. And yeah, so one of the last things we were advocating about was the CERB payments to people, and we were interviewed with CBC, and I know that Sarah herself has done some interviews. So we're getting busier, and as you know, like with this COVID relaunch and whatnot, there's a lot of things that are affecting people. Like one of them is employment, right? Like how many people will be hired back into their part-time jobs? That's a huge issue for self-advocates. It's a huge issue for a place like Gateway, who does a lot of employment supports for people. And we're just trying to make a difference.
Yes, definitely. Thank
Jobs
you.
in general, though, it's not just part-time jobs. There are people who work full-time jobs and whatnot as well. Thanks.
I was wondering, I wanted to hear from Sarah about her involvement with SAF.
Hi, you want to hear my involvement? Well, I started in advocacy a long time ago, and I actually fought for quite well when I was younger, that I was going to be on the other side, that I was going to be working with the disabled as a helper, as a staff member, because that's what I was doing when I was in high school. I was kind of in that role. I did not see that coming into college that I would be not included in my classes because of my disability, but that happened. I did get what I wanted out of college after a while, but I had to take it in French. Luckily, I was able to. And then I went into a situation where it was just like, I'm a product of many systems. I went into, for a while when I decided to go to high school, I was a government ward. So I'm a product of many systems, and many systems have not worked for me. So I started advocating to say, look, this doesn't work. It needs to be this way. And I'm still stuck doing that today, and still stuck saying, no, look, stop. It needs to be this way. You need to realize that you're serving this person, not that person. And people just think I can do things, and like, no, I can't. I may look like I'm able to do it, but I'm not.
Thank you for sharing, Sarah. Yeah. And I was just wondering, what about Quinn and your involvement? You're also part of the Self-Advocacy Federation. If you're still there, Quinn.
Quinn, where are you?
You are muted.
He can unmute himself.
I don't see.
I can help.
He's right here.
He's muted.
There
I
we
see him though.
There we go.
Okay, you are unmuted, Quinn.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm actually one of the very first members who started in 2006 and are still there, which I'm actually quite proud of. How I got into the SAF was actually through Vicky Mancini. She actually told me about them. Because I was going to Goodwill at the time, and she was the manager at the time, and back then I did not know I was sticking for myself at all. So if it wasn't for her, I'd still be letting people walk over me like a freaking doormat, which I'm very thankful for. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Can you also hear from Kaveen as well? Because she's from Calgary, but she's a self-advocate as well.
Of course. Kaveen, are you there?
Are you still there, Kaveen?
She's muted as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Sorry, I'm just at a Circle K store. Did you guys have something to say to me?
Yeah, we just wanted to know about your, how you got involved with self-advocacy.
I met you guys through the disability action hall.
But how did you get involved with the Disability Action Hall? How did you get involved with
Oh, with them,
self-advocacy?
because I posted my online petition and Calgary housing and AISH problems on the AISH Facebook page, and what's her name, Colleen, saw my post about my petition, and then she booked a date for me to come into the Calgary Scope Society, and that's how we met and each other, and she told me about the DAC.
Great. I'm glad you could join us, Kevin. It's nice to see you. Nice to meet you virtually. Yes. So I'm just wondering, what are some benefits in Alberta that have come out of Self-Advocacy Federation?
Sorry, were you asking about the benefits?
Yeah, in Alberta as a whole, Edmonton, what has come out of the Self-Advocacy Federation?
Which time period are you wanting to know about? The most recent?
Your highlights, maybe top 5 highlights.
Well, if I was to go, yeah, you go, Amy. You go.
No, I just want to interrupt for a second in the group, in the chat. I mean, it says from Lorianne, it says, thank you guys, I have to go. I am teaching in 7 minutes. I will look closer to the Federation. Thanks again.
Yes.
Thanks so much for attending, Lorianne. Some of my personal top 5s, I guess, are more things towards relating around the work that I did with the Right to Love initiative that I helped start in Calgary. And that was like 10 years ago, and it's still going, which is amazing. And it's actually even spread into southern Alberta and whatnot. So I was excited about that. I guess another personal highlights would be, it's really tough because I mean, like, there's so much stuff that went on and has gone on. Amy, you come up with something while I'm trying to think.
Okay. Another one would be the safety standard. The SAF, I'm assuming that's what Kelly had her hand up though. The SAF was really pushing the government to get rid of the safety standard that would have forced landlords and rent and whatnot to have to make adjustments to their apartment buildings or whatever if they had people living there that had disabilities. And so we were really big on pushing them to get rid of the safety standards. Also, the disability advocate. We have definitely, when we were pushing to have the disability advocate, we were really big on Twitter and sending letters in support of having a disability advocate. Yeah, that's really all I can think of at the moment. Sure, I'm missing something though.
Are being able to contribute on pushing towards having self-advocacy summits run by self-advocates with the support of allies, all the amazing partnerships and collaborations we've been able to get with the Self-Advocacy Federation.
We've worked on deinstitutionalization as well with other groups from Ontario. We've worked on PDD eligibility. We sit at the advocacy table with the government and making recommendations on changing the eligibility for people. AISH, we're really trying to change the date back to a few days before the 1st of the month because it is such a barrier for people. It's really frustrating for people to have to pay all their bills when their checks might not come through on time.
Still pushing for them to get rid of the de-indexing.
The de-indexing,
which is an even bigger issue.
Yeah. We have done a lot of work on basic income. We've done work with the PDC Council on inclusive employment. We are connected to several organizations in Edmonton with a financial collaborative, and we work with End Poverty Edmonton. I'd say one of the things that we've been able to do is be recognized, so that when something happens, like we meet with the disability advocate on a weekly basis now via Zoom to bring things to him. So like the recent thing with the Alberta government and CERB, and we feel like we had a big influence in that. So we're constantly trying to make our voice heard when it comes to issues that affect people.
I would say one other thought of Carrie was actually talking about this yesterday in a meeting. I wasn't part of the SAF at the time, but we have done a lot of films in the past and continue to every now and then. And we actually did one called Death by Numbers. And it's basically about how PDD sees people as a number instead of a name or an actual person. And so when that video was done, now I can't fully speak to this because I wasn't there, but from what I understand, PDD contacted the SAF because they were very concerned about what we were saying, and I think they came and actually had a discussion, didn't they, Kerry?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they came in. Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
I would just want to say that's another big thing. Like, I think with the government, we do have a lot of push and a lot of credibility with them. So.
Yeah, you guys have a list of things that you've done, and I was wondering if somebody could add a video or a link to your YouTube channel into the chat so people can access it.
Yeah, who wants to do that? Oh, I can do it. Well, there's not spoilers.
So my next question is, what are some struggles as a self-advocate? You guys do so much working with the government, pushing for change. So what do you come up against?
Don't everybody speak up at the same time. Oh, Anita,
Yeah.
do you have a question?
No, she was just saying bye.
Oh, okay. I would say that like one of our biggest barriers is that again, like we've managed to get our voice out there a lot more, but at the same time, it's like the consistent struggle of trying to get that voice consistent and being heard and relevant. And also being able to make sure that those voices are respected equally with those as much as anybody else who's going to be bringing up those concerns, because that is one of our larger problems is how some people are listened to and others are not.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say there are a lot of barriers that we end up still struggling through a lot. And I mean, like, I know personally one of mine, and it was actually part of the reason that I even started in self-advocacy, was the fact that like I was under guardianship until 2017. And through all the advocacy and all the other actions that I took during that entire time, I had to recognize the full fact that I was under guardianship, which gave my guardians, which were my parents, an ultimate authority over a lot of what I was doing and trying to navigate around that sort of thing. And it gave me a level on when I got into self-advocacy, of really recognizing those where those barriers really hit, because it's not just being heard that's totally the issue. It's how it's actually being received, how it's actually being respected, how it's acknowledged, like especially considering that it never taking out the value of the allies and collaborations and partnerships that we make, but our lived experience is sometimes shelved a little bit, and that can make things really more difficult. I can see that Amy wants to say something.
I just wanted to add to your point. I think that you're so right. One of the archival videos that I put on our YouTube channel a while back, I was watching it and we were talking to PDD and to the government about things that we wanted to see them do and change in order to help us better, in order to make it easier for us to understand what they were doing. And this video was made, I think, 2007, 2008 or something. And I watched that video and I thought about the last meeting I had with them, with the SAF, and I thought, that sounds familiar. Like, I definitely think that's a big barrier, like he said, is, you know, they might be listening to us, but are they hearing us? And, or are they just kind of sitting there nodding their head, right? Like, I think that's the biggest barrier and the biggest frustration that I feel as a self-advocate, is not actually being heard.
Especially considering, like, if we're to look at disability as its broad encompassing of how much of the population it is in Canada, it's around 21 to 22% of Canada identify as having a disability. And yeah, there's variances of how those disabilities come about and how those disabilities exist, but it's an entire community. We're the disability community. And it cultivates itself as an issue the more that it's not listened to.
Try to remember, put them in bags, please. I had to wash this entire thing.
Sorry, I'm just gonna mute. Thank you. And I just want to open it up to anyone who is listening in and learning more about the Self-Advocacy Federation to ask any questions. You can either write it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask.
Just while people are thinking of questions, another barrier that I kind of think is a big thing, at least for me as a self-advocate, and being a part of the Self-Advocacy Federation, sometimes I feel like where we get our funding from is sometimes a barrier, because there's only so much that we can do. So it goes to that old saying, don't slap the hand that feeds you. And I think sometimes that can put a barrier on what we can really do as an advocacy organization.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. My question was almost the same, like in the sense that where do you get the funding from? And also when you do these advocacy programs, is there any division between people with intellectual disabilities, mental illness, physical disabilities? How do you, work with all these different groups?
So if I may, we do get our funding through PDD. So it is primarily, we work with people who are PDD funded. That being said, we have many members who are not PDD funded. For example, Keith is not PDD funded. Sarah is not PDD funded. Kaveen is not PDD funded.
I am PDD funded.
Oh, are you? I'm sorry, Kaveen. We do not discriminate. The only thing that you need to do is self-identify as having a disability And we say developmental disability, which can encompass an intellectual disability or something like cerebral palsy, and be 18 years of age. We were just in discussions before COVID hit about expanding our funding so that we're not as reliant on the government. So we were in the middle of talks about applying for grants, applying for sponsors and whatnot who could fund us so that we felt more free to, yeah, like Amy said, not slap the hand that feeds you. So we're still working on that.
But at the same time,
yeah.
As often as we can, and we do try to work on it very hard, is to take it under that same respect as I was bringing up earlier, that people who identify within Canada with disabilities is 21%. We want to be able to allow any of those who identify with it. We all share that level of lived experience, and none of them should have any less value within our community.
So in Alberta, how many members do you have?
I would say we have right now 20 or so active members. I see Cody Miller has joined us. Cody's new to our group. Cody right now is in the hospital, and prior to COVID, he wasn't able to join us because of other things going on in his life. So this has kind of opened up his world. When we do go back to meeting in person, we're going to keep the Zoom meetings going because we realize that there's a lot of people in all parts of Alberta who really need this connection. And in fact, we're actually working province-wide with some of our sister organizations throughout Alberta. We just got a grant to expand our reach in on reserves and rural Alberta where people don't have access to this type of supports.
So we're going to be giving them training and also tablets for equipment so that we can promote more of the meetings like we're having right now, especially with yeah, one of the strange effects of COVID happened to be that, like with Zoom, a lot more people, including Cody, have been able to attend meetings that previously had not. And we're recognizing about how important that is. And then with a perfect example being like Kaveen, we're now able to have our meetings where it can be people from all across the province attending our meeting. And what has come from that is that by working together with our different advocacy groups from across the province, is that we were able to hold a town hall meeting last month that was emceed by Amy and co-emceed by myself. And we managed to have, was it about 108 people attend or something, and then 16 of them were MLAs and 3 ministers. And you have more to say about that, I'm sure, Amy.
No, not really. I was so focused on being one of the co-MCs that I wasn't really focused on anything else. But yeah, we did do that, and that was a huge success. But I just wanted to add to our answer to your question, Halim. I've actually seen the SAF grow and expand since I started in 2015. I mean, even just with COVID and having to have online meetings, like we've expanded our reach of the I hate to say types of members, but yeah, the types of members that we've had and the people that have been able to. I would say yes is the answer to your question. We definitely make space available for anybody with a disability who wants to come and join our group.
You're doing a great job. You know, it's a lot of work, lots of organization. You're making quite a big impact when you look at the overall needs, which is fantastic. I also understand you don't have enough manpower. However, can you tell me how would you be able to help a single person who came to your organization and said, all right, I need some help with AISH, or I need some help with PDD. Do you have any structures set up for that, or is it an issue of manpower right now?
It would, sorry, Tilly. I was just gonna say that I think it would depend on what the individual situation was, but if it wasn't within our capacity to help the person, we would find them resources that they could access to get that support.
We have a lot of support. Like, so for example, we got an email yesterday from somebody who is concerned with Edmonton Transit and DATS, that they are making it more difficult for people with disabilities to ride DATS in comparison to the I guess you would say greater population of people who ride Edmonton Transit, and how they feel that it's a discriminatory practice. So after this phone call, I'm going to be writing a letter to DATS asking for clarification and pointing out that really, even though it is a COVID response, it's a discriminatory practice because they're not applying the same rules to people who ride buses. So in regard to say somebody who's got an AISH application that was turned down, we have a lot of people within our networks who we can refer them to. We have at least 3 organizations that I can think of off the top of my head that we would say, go to this organization or go to this person, and they'll help support that. And then personally, I know both Heath, myself, and I think Amy have helped people with guardianship papers, AISH appeals. What else have we done? Yeah, and eligibility, PDD eligibility. So we don't have, Heath and I and one other person are the only paid employees at the Federation. So you're right, it is an issue of manpower, and we do have a small contract, but we do the best we can, and we use our supports. So for example, End Poverty Edmonton is, we do a lot of work with them, and if we have an issue that we can't handle ourselves, we'll ask for help.
Thank you. Yeah, you're doing an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I find that one of the struggles, and Carol mentioned this, is sometimes decisions are made top down, and that's what happened with that's decision, because right now with that decision, I am actually unable to use that with the way they're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I'm starting to have to ponder the fact, like, what would I do without grandma's car at this time? Because I have to take the bus everywhere, and the buses right now are just horrible.
Yeah. So you guys have done a lot of advocacy with DATS and sat on some committees.
That was the big issue that I was working on and continue to work on before COVID, because that is something that needs to be fixed.
And we have had members in the past who've been involved with DAG, which is the disability.
And I'm trying to get involved with DAG so that we can stop these top-down decisions and make this system better. Because the reason why I use that sometimes because I feel sometimes unsafe on the buses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you guys are working with that, because that's definitely concern we hear from families too, is just safety and accessing DATS. So I just wanted to bring it back to our focus of this online series, and there are some parents who have youth who don't qualify for PDD supports. And so what would you say the family's role is in self-advocacy?
I can definitely answer this question, but this is a huge thing for me. The role in self-advocacy is to support the self-advocate. And I think I've seen it happen so many times, and I understand why it happens sometimes, but the parent, the parent or the family members try to take over, and they try to be the superhero advocate for their kid. And especially if those kids are over 18 and want to advocate for themselves, I think it's important to give them that confidence and that the ability to do that, because our voice and our lived experience is the most profound and powerful experience.
And if I can just add on to what Amy said, which pretty much was awesome, I just wanted to add in that, as I was mentioning earlier, is that always, like, especially with the parents' role in advocation, is consistently remembering that while you're doing that advocation, it can be more than and in different ways than you would with it if it was a person with a different disability, or if it was a person who didn't have any disabilities. It can always be different. But at the end of the day, and especially like when you're engaging with different funding resources like PDD or AISH, or you're even navigating with supports and everything like that, is always being able to like treat the person with the disability with the same respect you would expect for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And always at an equal level. Yeah, the barriers are different. The situation is different. What needs to be navigated is always going to be different. But that doesn't take out any reason why you should be treating anybody less as a human. And I mean, like, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful of parents by saying that, because I do understand like how much more there is that you have to navigate through, how much more there is that there needs to be done. And it can be a very trying method of trying to do that advocation. But at the same time, I can't express enough how very important it is, so that it helps with their ability to grow, to feel more equal with everyone around them, and see themselves as less of being a label of a disability, but have their disability as part of their life. And they are them. They are human. They are Heath, Amy, Sarah, Kevin, Cody, Quinn. We're all people. So that's my little bit.
Really, if that sounded so much like a Intuit awesome speech that I almost don't want to add to that. No, I just wanted to say too, like, for parents, I understand that there's a lot of parents out there that are frustrated and they're very upset and very angry, trying not to swear on, very upset and very angry, and I totally get that. But at the same time, it's important to remember that you don't want to alienate the support that are out there for your kid. Like if you go into, say, a service provider and start yelling and screaming and whatever, that service provider might be the best support for your kid. But if you don't let them, you know, lead those supports and say, you know what, this is what I need, then they might not want to, you know, they might not want to offer that support because you're the loud voice in the room.
Perfect answer to my question.
I just was reading the chat. Cody's been joining in the chat. He likes the fact that that in this group we're able to talk about how we are feeling, and we're able to basically support each other, which is also something I like. We're able to support each other.
Definitely.
Sure.
So I just want to know kind of what are some fears that you guys have seen or witnessed from family members about their child starting to advocate for themselves?
I mean, I hate to speak for parents because you know, I'm not a parent, but from what I've seen and what I understand, it's a fear of their kids getting hurt. And I think that's a fear that any parent has, but I think it kind of doubles when you have a kid with a disability. I mean, I'm really lucky that I have a mother and a father who are very different. And my mom is, you know, has always been a very strong advocate for me. But she also has a lot of fear. Like when I flew to England, she said, "Oh, you have a layover in Ontario. How are you going to know how to get to the gate?" You know, whereas my dad was like, "Oh, you're going to England. That's awesome." Like it's that fear of, "Oh, what if this happened? What if this happened?" Instead of you know, just allowing their kid to maybe succeed or maybe fail or whatever.
Would anyone like to add?
That's a really good point, Amy, especially on allowing mistakes. Like, within reason, obviously, but again, that's part of the growing thing, is that we all need to have that area where we can learn how to make mistakes and how to grow from them and learn from them. And for a lot of people in the disability community, there is often a limit on, especially limit on how far they're allowed to go, and that can be really, like, especially as a youth, it can be really, or even as an adult, but it can be really detrimental to being able to grow and being able to have that confidence on being able to engage with things and feel that confidence that and having made those mistakes so you can learn from the mistakes can be really valuable. Yeah.
I just added a link to another video that the SAF did in the chat, and it's my all-time favorite one. It's called Mother Dearest. Yeah, my all-time favorite one, and it's in the chat there. Cody just said, if I were a parent with a disability, and if my child has a disability, I will tell them to join the SAF group for them to grow and learn how to stick up for each other and to have the confidence into learning mistake.
Thank you, Cody. That's very important. And yeah, I mean, Do you guys think that self-advocacy has an age limit?
No.
When should it start?
The day you're born. No, I'm kidding.
One.
Maybe not.
No. You got it right on there, Amy. It is literally like day one. Or the day that you find out about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other forms? What other forms can self-advocacy take? So, you guys are part of a lot of groups, meetings, but what else? What else is can be considered self-advocacy?
Well, if I can jump in a little bit with another really valuable thing about our self-advocacy group, and is something that I hope to press on a little bit further along with the others, as long as they're cool with it, is developing a healthy social atmosphere, developing like healthy relationships, friendships, like really learning things that aren't just limited to function or government, but actually just learning about and developing things together about how to navigate life in general is really important, because sometimes things can seem a lot more like it can get limited into either function or trying to address with the government or something. Especially like with how Amy brought up about how she initially thought about the Self-Advocacy Federation as being just another day program. And I think that one of the values of the Self-Advocacy Federation is being able to move outside of that and being able to look at each person beyond that as the human that they are, and really loving each other for all of our mistakes and whatnot. Yeah.
Quinn, did you want to say something? I can unmute you.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm just gonna make a joke, but okay, yes, I am. Yes, the age limits are from age 18 until the day you die to join the SF.
Yeah. And looking at the question in the chat, Shelly wanted to know, well, you need to be 18, but do you have any tips for parents who have kids who are not 18 yet to have their kids start advocating for themselves? What would that look like?
I really wish that I did, because I certainly could have used health advocacy when I was in junior high school. I know that we had talked about at one point maybe trying to get health advocacy groups in school and whatnot, but that never really got off the ground, and I think it was more of a funding issue than anything, right, Carrie?
I think Carrie stepped away for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, we'll just go with that.
I think it's exactly what you were saying, Amy, because there was a brief period when I started working again with the Self-Advocacy Federation that we were trying to push in that direction, and it ended up being some difficulties in the area of funding and whatnot.
Yeah.
But as for self-advocacy before 18, it should be existing. I mean, yes, the Self-Advocacy Federation is limited to after 18, but that for self-advocacy itself, I mean,
especially as parents, it's a really valuable process of being able to help navigate on how to develop with being able to learn from mistakes, being able to navigate how to go about advocating for yourself, and learn from each other that way as well can be really valuable. It is really valuable. It's not just can, it is really valuable. I mean, and finding a balance on where you can go with going beyond what you think your limits are, on being able to going through things that you find as boundaries, like dealing with relationship issues or dealing with certain types of mistakes or certain things that can happen, so that at least they're learning those sort of things when they're younger, and they can use those tools and they can develop tools. And that's something that is incredibly valuable, is like being able to develop those tools. I know from my own personal experience, there was like a lot of areas that I had to develop and learn for myself long after I was 18 that would have been things that kids would have normally have been doing when they were like in their preteens or early teens, at least in Canada. And I know that, like, for example, the fact of my being under guardianship, I still had a live-in nanny until I was 19. I wasn't allowed out of the house up until that point, and it took until I was able to eventually move it into the idea of me moving into with a supportive roommate that I finally got my guardians to agree with the idea of me moving out. But that was also because I was really limited when I was younger from being able to do anything outside of outside of my neighborhood. The neighborhood was about as far as I could go, and if I ended up going outside of that, I would get into severe trouble and then be like limited from doing much of anything for a long time. And that really like was limiting on my figuring out how to be able to navigate that when I moved out, even though I was living with a supportive roommate. But I mean, like, it's really valuable to see and experiment to see how far that can go, because at the end of the day, we're all just humans and we're all just trying to get through these sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Very useful tips. Could someone please put, or maybe Amy, SAF website for everyone to access? That'd be great. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the group?
We also have a Facebook. We don't have a profile anymore, but we have a page. So if you just search for Self-Advocacy Federation, you'll see a little earth-shaped logo as our profile picture. I can put
logo that's on Carrie's screen.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, the logo that's on Carrie's screen, and then it has the slogan, "Nothing about us without us."
Yes.
Thank you for sending the links, Amy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amy. Anyone have any other questions? I see Quinn trying to unmute again.
Yeah, can you help Quinn?
Oh, I think we're trying to do it at the same time here.
Nice.
Oh, wait a second. No, it's not letting me. How odd.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything. But
Oh, okay.
But
Saw
no,
your
I
hands
don't.
moving.
But I don't have any questions. More questions.
No worries.
Do you have any answers, Quinn? A joke?
Well, if I do think of one, I'll let you know.
Oh, it's a rare occasion to see Quinn speechless, isn't it?
I know for me, I've done a lot of letter writing since I joined SAF, and I'll probably continue to do a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a joke. Okay, which 80s pop song is a doctor's favorite?
No idea.
Let's give physicals.
That's funny, Quinn. You're such a smart ass.
Why, thank you.
Okay, I have added all of the links that you could possibly want involving the SAF on the chat.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great. So people can find you and
All of our
contact
links.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Anything else that you would like to share about SAF?
No, just come and join us.
Nope, just come join us.
Thank you for having us, Unique and Gateway. We really appreciate that you want to hear the voice of self-advocates, and it's partnerships like and networks like this that actually make us all stronger. And yeah, so thank you. We look forward to connecting again and working together.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And there'll be a copy of the recording. If anyone's interested and would like to share it with others, we can. I can send you the link to that. So
Thank
contact
you so
me.
much.
Thank you, Jay.
Hey, have a good day, guys.
You too.
Yeah, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.